All right, starting off here with a fault here, sensor fault. But anyways, welcome back to the next episode of our driver career mode here. We are in Silverstone after a good P5 finish there.
Right, we've lost telemetry. In fact, we've lost pretty much all sensor information. It's being looked into now, so just bear with us for a few minutes if you can, please.
A good weekend back in Austria for that doubleheader of the sprint weekend. P5 finish after the main event. And some decent points. But this time around, we're getting towards the halfway point for our season. As what we're going to be doing from here to the end of the season to try it out, or we'll probably just do the end of this race. We're going to go ahead and try out one of the tire wear mods to add more pit stops to the race. Most of the both of the tire wear mods that I looked at were elevated more towards the 50% race distance, and I'll have to wait and see what we can do here with the 25 or 33 or whatever the race distance that we're doing. I believe it's the 35 or something like that, where 2 stop to a 3 stop. But without further ado, we're gonna go ahead and get into this weekend with practice, and then we'll see you guys for qualifying. Alright, coming into qualifying after practice, and here are our times. We only got softs and mediums because our tire strategy, our weekend strategy for tires was set to soft. So you saw 3 seconds difference there as we got a 128.6 on our first qualifying session. No improvement on the second run, so we're on the Q2. Provisional P11 right there. Another slip right there on the turn, and that's 128.4. That's going to be good enough to get into Q3. No improvement on a second run as well. Q3 running here, and it's going to be our one and only run. Like I said, no improvement on our second run. It's going to be good enough for a 128.9.
With qualifying complete, let's review our top 3 today. Perez, Hamilton, and Max Verstappen. With qualifying complete, all that remains now is the main event. We'll be live and uninterrupted for the Grand Prix tomorrow, so make sure you join us then.
Alright, yeah, so a pretty different qualifying and practice at that. The tire life going down way more than I thought it would, but I was able to react a lot better than I thought compared to what I've seen and what I've heard. But yeah, that's the one thing I noticed was each qualifying session we only had one good run, and the second runs had worse times. But yeah, Sergio Perez, Lewis Hamilton on the front row, and we're going to be back there with Charles Leclerc in row number 5. Charles Leclerc running multiple times and having no, I think he only ran once in Q3, but he didn't have any times because of track limits, and that's why Schumacher got knocked out of Q1. But without further ado, and this new Tyre Compound testing here in Silverstone, let's get to the main race.
Welcome to not only the home of British motorsport, but also the birthplace of the Formula One World Championship. It's race day here at Silverstone, a classic on the calendar, and it's time for the British Grand Prix. The 3.6 mile long Silverstone circuit is one of the longest of the season, with 18 corners in the current layout. With average lap speeds reaching around 145 miles per hour, it's also one of the quickest tracks of the year. Watch out for cars taking the right-handers of Abbey and of Copse flat out. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. It's Sergio Perez on pole today, edging out Max Verstappen, who'll start from P2. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Oscar Piastri, Russell, Sainz, Tsunoda, Hulkenberg, Johnson, Leclerc, Bottas, Hamilton, Magnussen, Norris, Gasly, Joe, Sargent, Mick Schumacher, Mayer, Jackson, and Esteban Ocon lines up at the back of the grid. Now it's almost time for lights out, so let's go down to the track.
All right, so here we are in Silverstone for the maiden race of the season. And yeah, that's going to want us to go on a two-stop race. And we're going to actually go into this and see what 37% tire wear. We're going to play it smart, knowing that we have the mod that we do. And go with the alternate race strategy. And we're going to edit it a little bit to see what we can do about it. If not, we'll keep it the same. So let's get right to it.
The formation lap gets underway and every driver will be looking to settle in for the race ahead, making sure that their car is ready for the battle once the lights go out. As the cars make their way back to the starting grid to form up and get ready for lights out, let's hope the race ahead today is a thrilling one that will go down as a memorable Grand Prix in the history books.
All right, so here we are lining up on the grid between the Alfa Romeo Haas and the Ferrari. I noticed last race in Austria, as well as this race, that our Alfa Romeo liveries and our Ferrari liveries had improperly been uploaded after a recent update, a patch, like a minimal patch. But the next episode should be fixed on there. P8 as we're starting, the 5 red lights are on. And we're off. The Alfa Romeo Haas seemed like they were off to a false start. The Alfa Romeo in front of us, the Sauber in front of us, off to a bad start. Same as the Mercedes of George Russell. A little bit of contact there between us and Piastri. We dropped back down into P6 after that contact. A little bit of tire contact with Hulkenberg in the Alfa Romeo Haas as well, as we're side by side into, I believe, a turn 3 or turn 4, coming into the first straight of the race. And we're going to be slotting into P5 so far. Perez, Verstappen, Sainz, Piastri, myself, Hulkenberg, Russell, Tsunoda, Leclerc, Hamilton for our top 10. As we take that left-hander quite easily, try to catch up to this top 4. And Piastri in the Quadrant McLaren running pretty well. As we did gain a little bit of a gap between myself and Russell. And lap 1. And so far we're feeling pretty good about these new Tyre Compounds that we may be using next season. And yeah, so we're coming towards the double chicane, or the double S's. I forget what they're called off the top of my head. Maggots and Beckett's, I think it was. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. As George Russell already on lap 1 has caught up to me in my toe. You can see him in the mirror on the right side, moving on the inside, fighting for P5 here. He backs off. We stay ahead. And yeah, pretty close. Lap 1, as we got a lot of more close racing compared to the last few races here. But the top 4 in front of us still single file as we try to stay within their toe. So that's going to be our lap 1, and we're moving on to the start of lap 3 is when we're finally able to get close enough to Piastri to try to make a move. As we're coming up to, I believe, turn 2, then turn 3. We make a move on the inside, we brake late. We can see that everybody else in front of us are on hard tires as we force our way past Piastri. And at this point, we have DRS, so we're in a big DRS train. Try to catch the Sainz, Perez, and Verstappen. And lap 3 already, and there's so much fighting going on as we're running our mediums. And we're feeling pretty good about this so far, as our teammate Schumacher back in P16, not doing so well. But we're on the back straight here. And yeah, coming up towards, I believe it was Maggots and Beckett. It feels comfortable saying that here. As we have the 2 Red Bulls trying to make a move on each other. They're side by side, bumping tires. And Perez and Verstappen are not having it as Sainz is moving up. And we have tow, and we have DRS now coming out of those S's on the straight. You can see they're side by side. Piastri kind of falling back a little bit. Russell back a second already. I thought about making a move, but I backed off. Everybody went back into single file for these last few corners. As we're wrapping up lap 3, and a lot of fight going on. Russell and Hulkenberg fighting back there, and Russell seems to have lost a few positions as they're fighting back behind us around at the end of lap 3. Moving on to lap 4. We're still in the tow. We're trying to fight with Sainz. Piastri's still trying to catch up to us. And you can see Verstappen ahead of us there as we're coming through Sector 2. We managed to hold off Carlos Sainz, get up into P3 now. Piastri's still trying to fight against him. And then we have Verstappen ahead of us and in the tow. Moving on to later in the same lap, we're on board with Pierre Gasly, and there's a yellow flag up ahead. Looks like we have a lockup and a turn from the Sauber. I don't know if that was Joe Grandieu or not, but Gasly, out of nowhere, his tire comes off. His suspension just snapped. There's going to be a third-person perspective here, as I do believe it was Gasly. I don't know if it was Bottas or not. There he loses his front wing. The Connor Sports pass ahead, and then his suspension just snaps. Here's going to be, I believe this is Joe Grandieu. We did manage to get the texture issue on the helmet fixed. He had a lockup, and he wasn't the only person to have a lockup. We had a lockup a few cars ahead. I believe it was the other Alpine. And yeah, it was going to be Gasly. I believe it was the other Alpine of Valtteri Bottas. But at this point, lap 5, we're on a safety car. And you can see we're coming around the start. And our pit stops are in cinematic mode, so we weren't able to go into the pit stops. We had 9 people, I believe. See, Verstappen, Hamilton, all of those guys moving down the grid, going into the pits. So Russell, Leclerc, Hamilton, Ocon, Magnussen, Norris, all those guys back there coming into the pits. We're on the lap now. The safety car was supposed to come in, but we regained control of our car, and everybody else is coming into the pits because of the wear and tear on these tires. You can see Leclerc, Hamilton, Ocon, Perez, all those guys. No, Perez is ahead of us. All those guys going out to continue the race. The safety car stayed out till lap 7. We're back in P15 for our second segment of running tires. We went with the hard tires and go with the soft tires, or the medium tires for our third leg to see what we can do about positions. But Russell, Hulkenberg, Sargent, and Mayer are the only ones behind us. Jackson, the other Connor Sport, all the way up to P8 because he made that early stop. So everybody up there in the top 10 made that pit stop a lap earlier. He had a lockup from Sonoda there. And there was a gap, so the safety car didn't wait for all the cars to close off on each other. That way we had a fair restart. So you can see that big time gap between Piastri and Verstappen. Moving on to lap 10, we're finally able to make up some ground. And ahead of Russell, trying to make a move on Piastri for P12 coming around here, the end of Sector 2, Sector 3 now. We make that pass on these hard tires, lap 10 of 18. And we're up into P12, so we have a lot of work to do to get up to Bottas, Jackson, Sainz, Perez, as these guys are on a lap older tires. And yeah, they had a better start on the. We got stuck in a train when the safety car came in because we weren't allowed to pass until the start of the after the first corner. But at this point, Hulkenberg in the Alfa Romeo Haas also had an engine failure. We had some contact on George Russell. He came in on the inside of the corner. We were going wide, and he bumped tires. There's another bit of contact there as we're now behind Jackson, who's in P8 at this time, lap 12 of 18. And on these hard tires, I thought I was able to go to the end with these tires. But, yeah, so at this point, there's not a lot of us who've gone into the pits for a second stop that I know of. But I know I will be coming in for another set of mediums. So I'm going to try to make as much ground as I can here, as we're about just under a second behind Jackson, the 0.9, 0.83 behind him. We catch up to him on the next lap, coming into Magnussen and Beckett, as there's a 3-car train ahead of him. So we can try to get back up into P5, but Schumacher up there fighting for P6. You could see him side by side there briefly as we're trying to get past as close to Jackson as possible. And we're coming into this DRS train, and there's a lot going on, so we're going to make a move against Jackson on the inside. Going to be the outside for this final corner. It's going to be Valtteri Bottas ahead of us. A little bit of contact from us. Bottas, Jackson, and Schumacher able to get ahead. We decide to come in at this lap because our tire wear is coming down. You can see the contact between Sainz and Schumacher there a second ago. I was worried that he was going to get wiped out. But we're back down at P11 ahead of Sonoda as we're coming into the pits for a new set of mediums. And I was a little worried here coming into the pits for a second pit stop. I was worried that our race strategy was just ruined because of the new tire compounds. I had a feeling that a lot of drivers were going to go in for their 2 stops. But at this point of the race, myself and I believe only 3 others at the time went in for pit stops. I believe there's a handful of others you guys will see there at the end of the race. But lap 14, and we're in last place, P18, with Hulkenberg and Gasly DNF. And we have a lot of ground to cover. 6 seconds behind Zhou Guanyu and the Alfa Romeo, or the Sauber. So we got a lot of work ahead of us to do. Lap 15, luckily on these medium tires, we're able to catch up to Magnussen and Zhou with the Sauber and the Alfa Romeo Haas. And yeah, we'll make a move easily on Magnussen, get ahead of him here on lap 15. About 4 laps to go, including this one. Make a move on the inside, and you can see Zhou at Alfa Romeo still has that livery. Like I was saying, that mistake for the improper install. So if it should be good for the next race in Hungary. But we have DRS on Zhou Guanyu and the Sauber. And we easily make a move. We move him to the outside. We stay on the inside. And yeah, so we cover him off easily. And next up is Lando Norris in P15, who is another 2.9 to 3 seconds ahead of us. So we have some work to do. And yeah, as we round out the end of lap 15. So 16, 17, 18 to go with these new tire compounds. And these medium tires are helping us out a lot, because halfway at the end of lap 16, so to lap 17, Norris is by himself. He's about 1.3 seconds behind Callie Mayer. A little bit of contact there. Not too much to be angry about. But Callie Mayer up in P14 is up next, now 1.2 seconds ahead. All these backfield drivers are on hards because they're going for a 1-stop, and we're running a 2-stop with medium hard mediums. So we have that toe and that DRS on Callie Mayer to try to catch up to it. But you can see on her time frame, 6.8 seconds behind Logan Sargent. So we make a move here on Callie Mayer in the Connor Sport, and we force her off. Logan Sargent 7 seconds ahead behind the 2 Ferraris of Leclerc and Sainz. That's not going to be enough for that lap and a half. As we finish the race in P14, you can see the Connor Sport fighting for position against the Ferrari ahead of us as we cross the line with a decent race.
And that's the end of the race. We'll see you in Parc Fermé.
Plenty of action here at Silverstone, a memorable race and an impressive victory. And talk to me, what do you think it was that sealed the win for them?
I feel like consistency was probably the key today. There's being quick, and then there's being quick lap after lap after lap. If you can do that, you can capitalise on other people's errors without making many of your own. And that's an approach that can push you a long way up the field.
Red Bull put up an outstanding fight for the front position today, and it's great to see it paid off for them. They do so much for the sports that you can't help but be delighted by today's race win. Let's have a look then at the drivers' standings. Max Verstappen now leads the Drivers' Championship. So, Anthony Davidson, who would you rank as your driver of the day?
Often my go-to would be a driver who's managed to pull off an especially impressive feat during the race. However, in this instance, I was more impressed by Max Verstappen's solid, clean driving throughout the event.
It's time to see how things are shaping up in the Constructors' Championship. And Red Bull take over as championship leaders. It's been an absolutely wild weekend of Formula One action, I can't wait to see what's next.
All right, yeah, so that was an interesting Grand Prix. The safety car, we should have been able to go in early for the safety car, but we did have it on cinematic, so we weren't able to go in for that pit stop up until the second time around with another bunch of people, compared to the 9 drivers who did go on the first lap. I believe it was lap 5 that they went in. But yeah, so if we look into the race director, we can see that for the positions, the 3-stop actually wasn't that strong. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 7 drivers did a 3-stop. So if you can hit your mark properly, you can definitely do the 3-stop. Aston with the medium hard 3-stop and coming back from P20 for a podium. That's very good for Williams. And Logan Sargent still outside of the points. He started in P16 though. But yeah, so definitely leaning towards having this for Season 3. As the improved AI mod I put in as well definitely seemed like it helped out with fighting side by side for positions, as we did quite a bit with Connor Sports Aiden Jackson. And yeah, so we're definitely having to look forward to that. And look at that, you can note it in the Sauber finishing P6 after he started in P6. And then Mick Schumacher having an unserved penalty late in the race with Norris. But yeah, so really looking forward to this for next season. And even though we didn't finish inside the points, Mick Schumacher did score another point for himself. So yeah, really looking forward to that. So we will see you guys in the next episode.